We're recording now. So welcome to our November GAIPSEC learning call. Glad to see so many of you here on the cusp of Thanksgiving. And we're fortunate to have Alexis Szelwach here, who is the transition coordinator at Destination DAWGS at the University of Georgia. Alexis, thanks for being with us and being willing to share about the creation of the visual resumes that you all use to support students to translate their experience at Destination DAWGS to potential employers and other stakeholders. This particular learning call topic came out of a conversation that we had over the summer, well, a couple of times now, but over the summer with the Destination DAWGS folks. And I was just really impressed with the visual resumes as a tool, and I wanted the rest of the GAIPSEC consortium to benefit from being able to see the ways you guys use them as a tool to engage students and to create opportunities for a conversation between students and internship supervisors and employers. So Alexis, I'll turn this over to you and we'll go from there. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that introduction. And my name is Alexis Szelwach, and I've served as our transition coordinator now for almost 3 years, which has been really an exciting time. And I actually started off with Destination DAWGS as a mentor when I was doing my master's here at Georgia, and then did my internship with the program as well. So it's been a very long process, but it's been such a big blessing. So I'm just excited to share with you this tool that I adapted, but more so how it's really been beneficial for our career curriculum and then partnering with employers. Let's see if it'll go. There we go. So design method. We actually adapted this from a model that Lipscomb University used when myself and our team attended the IPSE conference in 2021. And so we split off into different sections, and our mentor coordinator, Christina Britton, she went to a session and we learned a lot about how they use the visual resumes. But for us, it was really great to use it in terms of career and employer tracks, because all of our students have individualized tracks and we're a fully inclusive model. And so sometimes explaining that can be a little difficult for our students. And so putting it onto paper to translate their experience throughout the 4 semesters they're with us really was a great fit for us. And so we adapted it from that. And then our inclusive program model. So when you see the examples, and I have it towards the end of the slideshow, you'll see that they start off in inclusive academics, but then it builds into inclusive career, as well as how all of our students are integrated into the University of Georgia campus fully, just like any other typically matriculated student. And so you'll see that. And then it's a research poster method. So when you, I guess, export the document into a PDF or whatever type of document you would need, it would show up very clear, but you can make it large. You can put it into an email document. It's really transferable no matter what type of method that you need it with. And then it's student focused and designed with the student. And so myself and the student sit down together and they get to pick their photos. They get to pick what is on there, what is said, which really also allows them to be in the driver's seat of being able to explain what they've done within their academics on campus, what they've been involved in career focused wise, their career exploration track, but also where they want to go and why they want a job and who they want a job with. And so it's really student focused. And then I also said person-centered focus, because a lot of this goes into all of the person-centered planning that we do from their first semester to their last semester. And so it's all based on the person, their track, and their desire for competitive integrative employment, but also it's all customized throughout our program. And so it really does focus on the amazing individualized work that we are doing with our program. And then it's their cumulative time at Georgia with academic courses as well as career. And so it really focuses on the specific career content area courses that they've taken as well as how it's aligned with their career exploration, but also their internships, and how has that made them a great candidate for a job that they're applying to in the field that they've studied. So career model. So this focuses in on the 4th semester of the program. And so they've already had 3 semesters of our inclusive career curriculum that all UGA students have access to. And obviously we've modified it a little bit for our students to receive that extra support and build in their career exploration, their work-based learning, all of that. So in their internship semester, that's from January to May, we will start putting all of their academic courses together, as well as all the experiences they've had. We partner with the UGA Career Center on their UGA mentorship program, which means that our students actually receive experts in their fields from the first start of the semester to their last semester at Georgia. So that's 4 semesters of 4 different mentors. They could have different interviews with them as well. So it could be 2 individuals a semester if they really wanted to, as well as an Arch Ready certificate program. So making sure that we're really focusing on all the amazing inclusive experiences they've had with career fairs and all of that. So we kind of accumulate that into one document where we have all their inclusive academic courses, their career center activities, as well as all the amazing things they've done in career exploration, as well as their final internship. And we're adding to that throughout the semester, which then leads to a career portfolio. So they have their resumes, their cover letters, their pitches, their business cards, all the above. And then this would go into that when they graduate from the program. And then evaluation, so end of semester. It's a great visual representation of all the things that they've done in work-based learning from their first semester to their last semester, along with all the academics, and then more so the career-focused involvement that they've chosen throughout their time at Georgia. And then work-based evaluation. So I really love when I sit down with their internship supervisors and then potential employers with some students and show them the amazing work that they've done at Georgia in the inclusive classes, but also within the employment that's been individualized from their second semester on at the University of Georgia. And so it really just visualizes for that employer, but also the student to help them support being able to discuss. This is what I've done. Like, you can see me at this site. You can see the amazing work that I've learned and kind of built throughout my time here at Georgia, and why I wanted to be a part of this program to begin with. So it's a really good visual representation for not only our students, but more so the employer, to really get an idea of what IPSE is, but also what our program is and what the student has learned in terms of employment skills. And then what do we use them for? So evaluation. So I always love to have that visual representation of, these are all the things that I've learned. These are the skills that I've built. These are all the things that I've accomplished within the certain set of academic and career components that we've had at our program. And then internship meetings. So a lot of our students, when we go to sit down for mid-semester evaluations and then our final evaluations, we're constantly building on that visual resume per se. And to have that final product at the end, it's been really eye-opening for employers to say, I've made an impact in terms of having them have an inclusive experience as any other student intern would have, or even employee that isn't a student per se. And so it's just been really eye-opening for the employers, but also our students to say, like, I've done this, I've done that. And it builds their confidence, but it also adds an additional level of support to where they can independently do things without a peer mentor when they leave our program. And then presentation. So I presented at Carl Vincent here for a workforce pipeline conference, and showing how we create an inclusive model where students are getting that content as well as inclusive employment was huge, because they got to see visually how our program really sets students up for success, whether that means they want to go into employment right after, or they want to go to a tech college and work part-time. That just really depends on the student, but also how we really meet the student where they're at. So individualized, individual needs, and then their individual track, because we haven't had any student that's completed the same thing once. Well, I guess twice. So really it does impact the student and their goal. And then donors and fundraising. I mean, this is great to show these are the outcomes that our students are getting. And this is all because of the inclusive model that we have, but also the employment focused program with the inclusive academics and then their inclusive involvement that's really built them up for a successful career once they leave Georgia. And then final transition meeting. So we hold a MAPS process in their last semester. And so this is a great visual resume to show what they've learned throughout the 4 semesters within building up that career exploration in their content areas, along with what are they doing when they leave our program. And this kind of ties everything up in that bow of, here is your last semester, but also, you know, what is the path after Destination DAWGS? And so it does really help leave families and the student with that visual picture of this is what I'm doing and this is where I want to go. And then inclusive employment practices. So showing why is it so important that students are in inclusive environments to get to the next step of paid employment and competitive employment and individualized employment, where students aren't just being forced into one category, they're really choosing and selecting where they want to go next through our program and building those foundational skills to get to the next step after graduation here. And so why are these successful? The biggest thing that I've really seen for students is that they have a visual aid for support. So a lot of the times, you know, they've done so much while they're here within career, they've networked, they've completed all these different seminars to receive a certification. They've done additional certifications. They've done 3 to 4 different sites before their internship. And that's a lot for myself, for anyone to remember. And so having that on a visual document has been really helpful. To really support our students within this whole process. So discussing their academic and their career exploration. Our students have taken so many different courses that are very specialized and specific to their area of study. And sometimes that's really hard for them to articulate in one meeting. And so having that on a paper just really shows it along with visual representation, because we're all different types of learners. And so I've really seen that this has helped students be able to just hand this off to say, this is the employment, these are the supports that I need, but also this is the things that I've accomplished independently with the support of the program. And so that's just been a really powerful tool. And then career focused involvement. So a lot of our students tend to choose involvement that's really focused around their college and the areas that are really helping them build additional skills and the network to get the jobs in the areas that they want. And so an example of inclusive practices for employers. So we're all person-centered focused, we're all individualized. And so them seeing our practices and what we've accomplished with this student that wants to apply for a job with them, it's been really powerful to say, you know, they can succeed with us. So that doesn't mean anything different for you and your company or your organization, or for one of our students, it was a park, a state park. So it's really used also as an advocacy tool for them to be able to articulate the needs and the desires that they have. And then helps with design and modifications for employers for the success of each individual student. And so all of our students have graduated in different disciplines, but also have needed different things. And so having them be able to share the courses that they've taken, but also every different internship / career exploration and different area that they've kind of studied has just been really powerful for each individual to say, these are the things that worked in this area for me, but also these are the modifications or the needs that I needed in this area to be successful. And so having employers, but also the student have that in front of them, I think, again, just reinforces why IPSE programs are really important, but also why inclusive environments are just so important. And then graphically shows the individuality and inclusive model that we use. And so that is one thing that we are just very proud of, but also that we make sure in every type of meeting that we have, that is the focus. And so anytime I sit down with employer now with, our alums and the visual resumes we have for them, I show them this as in, look, they were treated just like any other employee. While yes, we might have had to make certain accommodations, they were successful and either hired from that internship or went on to partner with another part of that business, or they wanted to go a different direction because they obviously moved away from Athens, Georgia. And so it just really obviously, again, depends on the individual, but showing the power of an inclusive model and a fully inclusive environment and college experience, they're obtaining different positions than some of their peers. And I think it just, again, goes to add towards the power of our program, but also why inclusive, individualized, and competitive employment is so important, which we stress within each semester. And then these are examples. So this is one of our students, Burke. He did sports media, and you can kind of just see everyone's going to be very different. But again, all of his involvement was built towards his career and his area of interest. And so it kind of talks about, about him, his background, which again, I've always told our students, employers want to get to know you. Well, yes, you've developed all these skills and you've done all these amazing things at Georgia. This allows them to have the bullet points to say, kind of like their elevator pitch, if you would say, we kind of build that around it to go into the about me, so that they have that right in front of them to use it as a tool when they go into interviews or when it goes onto their resumes. And then internship, talking about what Burke did. And so he did a bunch of different things here at Georgia, but again, it highlights the key points of his internship to go into an interview so that he has those specific points to talk about, as well as just to share with his internship and the things that he's learned. And then his coursework. So more so the content area courses that he chose that he wanted to highlight to talk about with employers, but also with any other person that he decides to share this with in terms of his network and his field of interest. And then his involvement, and then the career exploration that Burke pursued, as well as the future plans that he would like to do. And students receive this at the end of their semester, as well as they're working through it during their last semester with myself. And we're always editing this document, and they have it to edit. So Burke now is employed actually here at UGA within athletics. And so he's used this and can continue to edit it if he so desires. And then Emily, so another example of she had a completely different path than Burke, and it's all individualized. So again, looking at what did she want to focus on and where are the focuses that she decided to portray to employers and all the experiences that she's had here at Georgia. So talking about her about me and her elevator pitch, internship, coursework, involvement, career exploration, and then future plans. And you can kind of see the design method of this is I really also looked at what is the branding of our university. So is it matching our logos, our colors, but also is this really portraying what an inclusive experience looks like, which it does for our program. So again, this might look different for your program. It looked different for the program that we looked at when we really got this idea to really help our students as an additional level of support for when they leave our program. So Emily's future plans looked very differently than Burke's, but then again, it goes to the inclusive model of our program, the inclusive involvement, the inclusive coursework, but again, the individualized path to employment. And when I talked about the person-centered processes, we really focus on our STAR plan, our discovery process, but then also the MAPS process. And so this also really helps students focus when they go into a transition plan out of our program. They're already thinking about this from the start of their last semester in January to the end in May. And so it's always a theme of, how am I representing myself? Where's the next step? What do I want to do after this program? Where do I want to go? Do I want to stay in Athens? But it gives them more of a structure of their time at Georgia within an academic and career focus. And then Darren studied food and nutrition and hospitality. And so again, very different and individualized and fits to what he wanted to discuss, the pictures he wanted to focus on, and then more so where he wanted to go and after. And then our last student is Wyatt. And so this one, Wyatt ended up doing a few different things. And so I want to focus on this one a little bit because he wanted to study health and nutrition at our very large facility at Ramsey, and then also focused on wildlife management and park and recreation. So he chose to have two different areas of interest in that sense. So within his internship, he focused it at Fort Yargo and Camp Twin Lakes, but then in his career exploration, he actually focused as well on health and nutrition and personal training. And so our students do have that option to participate in really anything that they choose to do. And so he was getting paid employment and also working an internship, which was so impressive for him. And so now he's working as a park ranger, and all these students are employed. But I wanted to focus on that. This really highlights that he chose to follow two different areas, but also ended up with his area of study and his career goals of becoming a park ranger. And so again, it's all individualized, but also highlighted for him that he has this whole sheet of here's my visual resume. This is what I've done. This is where I want to go. And this is what I want to do, which has really helped him to really talk about his goals in a more structured way versus just going off on separate tangents or really talking in depth about certain things that he really just wanted to stay focused on. So this was a really great support and aid for him. And then, yeah, and then that's kind of what I have. So I know I see questions, but I'll turn this off and then we can just kind of have a discussion now. Stop share. There we go. And I can talk more about all kinds of stuff. That was just a brief structured overview.
That's awesome, Alexis. I appreciate you sharing that information and the format. One of my questions, you mentioned that the students receive the visual resume as part of their portfolio, and you obviously mentioned that they receive it so that they can update it if they desire as they progress. I was just wondering what format do they receive it in, and you know, so that I was just wondering because I was wondering how easy it is to update.
Yeah, so actually, when I went back through in grad school here, we had to do a lot of research posters. And so a lot of the formats are actually on PowerPoint, which is really accessible for all. And so they get the PowerPoint format and then they can edit it, so forth. And so a lot of them have had to obviously update it for the jobs, but this was kind of what they received in their last semester, which is why I showed that. And so now they can update it to anything that they've added in terms of like, I've gotten employment and whatnot. But this is what they would use when they go to interview as like an extra support tool, but all PowerPoint format.
Awesome. Okay. Super helpful. Other questions for Alexis?
I know we said positive mental attitude. That was Wyatt's big thing, his PMA. And so he also wanted to make sure he put that wherever he wrote it down. And again, going back to our students are the ones who are also creating this. So while yes, I'm helping them with format and maybe some language tweaks here and there, it's all on our students' focus. And so whatever they want on there goes on there, but also it goes towards helping them kind of articulate their experience in a professional way, but also a visual way that really also makes an impression on their employer. And also it's great for their families because a lot of the times our students choose an area of focus that maybe their parents might have not chosen for them. And so it's also an additional way to say, this is the area that I want to study. This is what I've accomplished within my 4 semesters of Destination DAWGS. And look, now I have a job. And so that's also been another really great tool.
But that really shows self-determination. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wondered, have you had feedback from employers about what it's like for them to receive the visual resume? So What do they say about it?
The first thing they say is I should make one for myself. I think
Mhm.
that's where a lot of the times is our internship supervisors and then obviously future employers for our students. It's just a great visual way for them to not only see the impact that they've had within working with an IPSE program, but also it makes them really realize maybe not all of their ways are inclusive, or are they looking at things from an inclusive model? And so I think it's been a very good start to dialogue that needs to happen, but also it shows the importance of partnering with IPSE programs, making sure that they're really focusing on inclusive practices, but also that our students are really meeting the needs that they need at that time. And so what does that internship look like? And so for some of our businesses and campus partners here, some of them have never had worked with our program, or some of the businesses were new here in Athens. And so it was a really great way for them to just also say, this is what I've done. And so I want to structure some of my other internships like this, but also, you know, I want to hire them because I've seen the work that they've done, the things that they've learned, but also the amazing value that they've added to their businesses and their companies. That's been the biggest thing.
I really love that you brought that up, because I think in the context of the workforce conversations we're having, I think, you know, in terms of finding and keeping, finding and engaging good employees, I think it requires that potential employers might look differently, might you know, really begin the search for a good employee in a different place than they might have in previous times. And so I think it really does give students of the IPSE programs an opportunity to sort of put themselves out there and frame the ways that these programs prepare them for employment. So that's awesome. Yeah. So I think it not only is it a cool tool, but I think it's also timely in terms of kind of the workforce situation that we're in right now.
Well, and again, like this is all individualized. So every programs are it's gonna look different, but also we had talked about, even when I had started, is really doing some type of visual for our students and how to use it and how they could really use it as a tool to help them be able to articulate what are they doing. And so every week, you know, our students, I have them do reflections that go along with the STAR method, but also they need to be reflecting on what they're learning, what they're doing, what they enjoy, what they don't enjoy, because obviously they're going to be entering the workforce when they graduate. And so what does that look like? And so I really have seen so much growth within our students when they're creating this poster really of their time within inclusive academics and career here at Georgia, how to be able to articulate that and having that in front of them. It's almost like a cheat sheet, like a note, but it's also a very organized note to be able to show as here is a tangible document that I have done and I created, but also help and support when they might need that at any moment in their professional endeavors after the program or within their last semester of interviewing and whatnot.
Right.
And it's also been amazing with the Career Center here. They're an amazing tool for us. And so also having them kind of come in and be able to provide a lot of resources as well. I've been very grateful for that.
Hi, this is Carol. I wanted to share, good job, Alexis.
Thanks, Carol.
I wanted to share that when the team came back from the SEPSI conference and were excited about, you know, seeing this product and talking about how we could use it as at the program level, I was excited about it too, because it allows us as the program to show how different each student's trajectory is throughout their 4 semesters with us, and put that in front of people as a highlight of, you know, this is how individualized outcomes are achieved in our program, and what individualized academic, you know, programs of study look like. And we've kind of talked a little bit about doing like when students graduate at the end of their last semester, kind of doing like presentations or bringing them together along with maybe my disability studies certificate students, who I always do a little celebration for at the end of the spring semester, to share their visual resumes kind of as posters. We do like poster presentations where they can talk about what they've done, and other people can see it, and other mentors who are in our program who might not have worked with the student over all 4 semesters, or maybe didn't get to know them very well, can kind of see the cumulative impact of what they've learned in our program. So I think it's great for the student as a tool for gaining employment, but it's also good for a program to be able to kind of speak to the impact on the individual level and then kind of across student cohorts as well.
It really makes, Carol, along that line, it really makes me think about sort of the conversation that can be possible with peers too on campus in terms of the path to employment, right? So we do some work with our folks in Lend and pair them with advocate leaders, and they both, it's a sort of bi-directional conversation about the trajectory of the Lend participant and the trajectory of the advocate leader, kind of at the end of their training. And so I could see using a version of this to sort of guide conversations like that between IPSE students and typical peers. So like, this is what I've done. This is how I'm prepared to go forward from here, and to sort of create opportunities for a bi-directional conversation, and potentially some conversation about, hey, I know a good resource. I happen to have met somebody who might be helpful to you in the context of my time here at UGA, or in the context of my time here in Destination DAWGS. So I could see using a version of this for a little bit different purpose as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And I can also see, and how cool would it be if our IPSE students were sharing this with their mentors when they're graduating, and I could see our undergraduate students wanting to have one too.
Right.
I have students that take a Principles of Person-Centered Practices practicum course who are mentors with us, and they learn about the history of person-centered practices and different models and methods, and then attend our students either the STAR plan in the fall or the MAPS plan that Alexis does with them and their families as they're exiting. And a lot of them come back and they reflect on it and say, I wish somebody did this with me when I was a student, right? Like having tools like that are not just for people with disabilities. They could benefit everyone. And I just think it would be really cool for our students to be the ones that are kind of leading that conversation with their matriculated peers.
That's
but
amazing.
yeah.
Very cool.
And I will say, oh, sorry, Mark.
No, you go ahead.
No, I will say that, when I've had students come with me to meet different stakeholders, or also explain to someone who might have never heard of an IPSE program, because sometimes we use a lot of acronyms, and our students, they need a different way to also explain what is an inclusive post-secondary ed program and what does that look like. This has been really helpful to educate, not only just students at UGA, but more so actual stakeholders who want to participate within the university, but also partner.
Yeah. Well, one of the points on one of your slides was the ways you've used it in fundraising. I buy that. I mean, that's a really impressive sort of set of slides to put in a presentation to a potential funder about sort of the opportunity that they're investing in. So that's one great example, I think, in terms of other stakeholders that might be engaged.
Star.
Yeah, what you and Mark are just talking about goes, really clearly with what I was thinking. And I know you sent me Bert's visual
Yeah.
resume for the legislative presentation. And if I had had one from every school, then that's exactly what I would have done, is just shown that. And it would have been really helpful. But the information that I got from it was great and allowed me to at least present some of the great information there. But and you guys couldn't see the legislators' faces. Mark could, but they really enjoyed Burke's story. So you did a great job.
Yeah.
Thanks. He was also our first student who's ever also received an additional credential besides the one that we've done. He received an additional certificate that he pursued. So again, like what Carol was saying, it just again speaks to the individual, which is obviously our mission. So.
And I thank you for including that information, because I did get a question just yesterday from the legislative analyst from the House wondering, we did mention that some of our students go on to additional study, but she was wondering, well, do any of them get other sorts of certificates while they're in the programs or while they're out of it? And I was able to say, well, I think that one guy from UGA definitely did it. And I know that there are other students as well. So information like that is really helpful. So.
And a lot of our students have been able to share, because of the power of inclusive academic environments, they've received additional certifications or credentials within those courses, as well as we have very strong partnerships with the extension offices within our colleges. And so our students have been able to receive like 3D printing, and then as well as like ServSafe and stuff like that, that we can put on there.
Yeah.
So.
It's great.
But thank you.
Other questions or comments? Other things that folks are thinking in the light of this, receiving this information?
I loved it. It was great. I do have one quick question. You mentioned portfolio. Could you elaborate on like anything else that you add to those portfolios, or is this like the only thing?
Yeah, so we have this, but then it's really, again, individualized. So some of our students, one student we have is like looking at theater. And so theater is very different than forestry and wildlife. And so theater requires additional, like a theater resume and stuff like that. And so again, it's individualized. So all of our students create their business cards, resumes, cover letters, elevator pitches. And a lot of the times, again, as I said, they're about me. I wouldn't put it as like our elevator pitch on their visual, but that's really what they use to be able to promote at career fairs, interviews and stuff like that. And then really anything additional that they add. So like reflections go in there, work-based learning evaluations from their like semesterly reports, so like academic and more so individualized based. And then any additional credentials that they receive. So ServSafe material, all of that, again, is just really individualized. There's no subset per student, but it's really more so what you would receive if you attended the career seminars, and more so the career opportunities with our career center at Georgia. But again, it's like forestry and wildlife. When I went with Wyatt, we went to the Department of Natural Resources, and they also needed different things. So we had to do some additional information and work, as well as one of our students who was focusing on engineering and stuff like that. So they all received the resume, cover letters, the big things to apply towards a job and a position, but then they have the additional factors per each individual.
I also heard you say that business cards were part of that. Did I hear that right?
Yep.
Yeah.
We do that for, they do that in a course that they take here at Georgia, but also they're great for like career fairs and to be able to say like, here's my area of study. And there's also like virtual options, but they do that within a class too.
Yeah, we have, when a student first starts in their first semester, there are a couple of courses that our students take that are UGA courses that we require each student to complete. So one is called Work Ready, World Ready. And they create products in that class that go into their portfolio. And then they also take ECHD, I forgot what that one is, but they have other products that they all are completing as, you know, part of the assessment of the course. And so they all kind of start thinking about this stuff in their first semester. And then Alexis has basically created a semester over semester weekly pacing guide for how we build and tier off the first semester into the second into the third, and third into the fourth, so that we're not only thinking about what they're doing in those foundational classes in their first semester or two, but making sure that if they are a student that has received authorization for pre-ETS for VR, that we're meeting all of those requirements and reports, that as they're building in like their exploration phase, because Alexis has also been trained in the discovery process, which is part of competitive integrated employment. So that's something you might want to think about with you and your staff, helping get clarity around, what does a student think they want to do as a career path, and what experience do they have with that? And are they really sure that's what they want to do? Like most of us might change our minds. One of my favorite quick stories was we had a student named Britta in our first cohort, and she came in saying she wanted to work with kids, all about wanting to work with kids. And she had a work-based experiential learning opportunity to be put in a pre-K, and she quickly realized she didn't want to work with kids. And then we went and presented at the first SEPSI conference, and in the middle of her presentation, she was like, "Yeah, I don't want to work with kids anymore. Now I want to work on cars." So she made a real quick turn. But it's a great process to work through, and Alexis has this whole tiered method of building, semester over semester, and making sure that all of our students are having opportunities to build the products in their portfolio and the things that will go into that visual resume.
Yeah, that's cool. Carol, it makes me think, I talk to trainees all the time, both trainees with and without disabilities. Like these opportunities are both to make sure what you don't want to do, as well as much as what you do want to do. And so I think it's super important to like give students an opportunity to do a number of things, because if I come in thinking my path is this, and oh my gosh, I had an internship where I did that and that was terrible, clearly I need a different kind of opportunity. So
we've had plenty of students, and what Carol was saying about the pacing guide too is, it's for our program, since it is so individualized, it creates somewhat of a structure for us to just build off of. But we had a student, and her visual resume was on there, but she started in community outreach and engagement, which is very broad, but then she ended up wanting to do it within ministry. And so again, that student comparatively to another student is going to look really different. So
that's great. Any other questions or comments for Alexis?
thank y'all so much. This was awesome. And if you need anything, you have my email, you can reach out, and happy to help.
That's amazing. I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I hope everyone has a happy Thanksgiving.
And thanks, Alexis. This is great.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.